Доброго дня, це медіа-центр.
Good afternoon. This is Media Center Ukraine, Odessa. We are going to start our working day, but before that, me and the whole team of our center would like to express our condolences to those who died and to the relatives of those who died in the aircraft accident near Kyiv. Our first briefing will be dedicated to the development of the maritime transport infrastructure and communications. And now we are having with us Oleksandr Hayduk, the director of the relevant department of the Odesa Regional Military Administration. Good afternoon. I would like to welcome the representatives of the mass media and to the residents of Odessa region. I would also like to express condolences due to the today's strategy as the head of the department, and I can say that such things should not happen in our world, and this is grief for everyone. I'd like to express our sympathy. I, as the director of the Maritime Transport Infrastructure and Communications Department of the Odesa Regional Military Administration, would like to share the information about our challenges, the issues that we worked with, and our plans for the upcoming year. Since the beginning of the armed aggression, the department's activities have been focused on solving tasks that were connected with the development of logistics routes for strategically important export and import cargo flows, in particular for humanitarian purposes. The main tasks were focused on the comprehensive support of our military, the affected regions of the country, temporarily displaced persons, and on increasing economic capacities of the regions. The main challenge of the transport sector in 2022 was the development of new export-import logistics chains. After the start of a full-scale aggression, the port industry almost completely stopped working. The exception was the Danube region. Of course, that envisaged the new rules of the work, the transition of the cargo flows. Thus, the Danube region had the biggest volume of all cargoes imported or exported in the region. So the export of agricultural products, including oil, bread, increased by 40 times. The total cargo handling through the Danube ports increased by 3 times, including the exports by 4.2 times of all cargoes. Thanks to the return of control over Zmina Island, traffic through the channel of the Bystra mouth was opened from the beginning of July, which made it possible to unload the rate of the Sulina Channel and double the speed of grain exports. As you know, the grain initiative became operational on the 1st August 2022. As of today, 659 vessels with almost 18 million tons of agricultural products, which are sent from Ukrainian ports, have been sent to Ukrainian ports to more than 40 countries in Asia, Europe, and Africa. Implementation of port infrastructure development projects of the Danube region has begun. In particular, the Ukrainian Danube Shipping is actively developing the Danube Grain Route project, which guarantees the safe delivery of agricultural products from the river port immediately to a large tonnage sea vessel. Nibelon LLC started the construction of the Danube grain terminal in Rini. Today, the terminal processes 120,000 to 150,000 tons of cargoes per month. After the completion of constructions, which will be this quarter, the terminal will supply the European market with up to 300,000 tons of grain per month. On the 11th of August 2022, for the first time in the last 20 years, we implemented a very interesting project, which had been impossible before that. That is the launch of the passenger transportation ferry across the Dniester estuary between the town of Ovidiopol and the city of Belgorod-Dnistrovsky. It operated for 2 months, and it demonstrated the interest of the passenger. 8,300 passengers were transported during the service in total. This is a great result, and we are going to return to the project with the relevant weather conditions, because this is impossible for this route to operate in winter. So we are going to add some new routes. August was very active, and on the 22nd of August, the railway connection with the Republic of Moldova was restored, namely the renewed railway section, which had not worked for more than 20 years. And this will contribute to expansion of the throughput capacity of the infrastructure in the connection between Ukraine and the EU countries. As I've already mentioned, the burden of cargo flows on the Danube region increased in numerous times, and the transport infrastructure was not ready for this, especially at the beginning of the war. So there were bottlenecks and congestions, and these issues had to be solved immediately. That's why we made a decision from the 6th to the 12th of December 2022. The Odesa Regional State Administration decided to restore the Sereti Road, which is the life corridor of the city of the Danube region. So there were the repairs done. We changed the surface of the road, which was not suitable for that. And you know that the congestions were up to 40 kilometers. And for 6 days, we were able almost completely solve the issue. And one more problematic issue related with cargo flow. This is the parking of the means of transportation along the road of almost the whole Ismail district. So the region was not ready, and there were no parking places for the trucks there. And together with the relevant road services, together with local authorities, we created the needed parking lots for almost 600 cars in the Ismail region. And this helped to at least partially solve the issue. So the work is ongoing, and we are waiting for the positive results from these activities. What are our plans for the next year, 2023? So this is, of course, the restoration and reconstruction in the modernization of the transport infrastructure that was damaged by the Russian aggression. This is the dredging in the Danube and the Black Sea area. This is the repairs of the passenger fleet of the Ukraine Danube ferry and ship company. This is the privatization of the state enterprise, the Udonetsk Sea Commercial Port, and the development of railway connection between Berezina, Ukraine, and Bessarabska, Moldova, and the Romanian port Galați, and also the repairs and modernization of railway stocks and the stations, including in those of the ports. When I share the information about our achievements, these are not only our results as our department or administration. A lot of institutions and authorities, including local authorities, are involved in the operation, including the road services. And we would like to thank everyone for being able to solve, during such a short period of time, such urgent issues. This is all on my side. And if you have any questions, I'm ready to answer them. Yes, I can give the mic if someone has a question. Можу запитувати українською, англійською. That's great that we can have two languages, but for our audience, it would be better if you ask questions in Russian. Michael Vasura, Newsweek journal. How the current situation has been influencing and impacting the profitability of Ukrainian companies. We know that the vessels have to wait for several weeks in Bosphorus for Russia to allow them to go further, and they have to pay for insurance, and of course this increases the price of the grain and also the profitability of Ukrainian farmers that get less for their work. So what is the general impact on the whole situation for farmers and the economy of Ukraine in general? Should I answer in Russian language, how it's better for you? So then I will choose Ukrainian, of course. Of course, the redirection of the logistics routes has increased and has impacted the price of the grain. Of course, this also has an impact on the final consumer. During the first stages, because the market was unstable and there was the high volatility of prices, the situation was more difficult. Now the situation is more or less evened, so the price has not gone down to the times before the war, but the situation has been more or less settled. Almost all farmers have adjusted themselves to the current issues. Of course, the situation has been deteriorating by the fact that now we cannot send the grain cargoes to the Danube ports. So we are waiting for the railway point Berezino-Basarabaska to come into full operation. That will increase the situation in general. And how this will increase the transshipment of the cargo. That will allow us to have the additional route. This will increase the capacity for 15–20%, and this will decrease the burden on the roads because the rail is cheaper than road transport. Of course, this will have an impact on the price and the capacity of Ukraine and the EU countries at that point. I don't know if it's the question to you, but let's try to imagine that the war is over and all ports are open and all the territories will be demined. How is the process ongoing? How much time can this process take to ensure the safety for all vessels in the Black Sea near Ukraine? Unfortunately, I'm not the expert in this area. This is perhaps the question to our military, but we should not expect that this will be an immediate action, and demining will take and needs some time because this is a difficult and long process. But the corridors and channels are already there. But I cannot tell you about some precise times. And I would like to add a few words. Several months ago, I discussed the demining with the experts. Here we're actually talking about a complex of events. This is the taking away of the artificial barriers for the vessels. And also, we should also speak about piloting here. That should be done before the launch of a full-scale navigation. Those specialists and the military I communicated with told me about the period of 6 months. But perhaps after the grain deal, the situation has changed. I have one more question to you. You've mentioned that you've repaired the road surface on Odesa road, but still we have can see some heavy trucks there. Should you repair some other parts of the road? And what is the general condition of the motorway? Because when it was opened, the condition was almost ideal. Of course, the road has been impacted. We have some difficult and problematic parts there. For example, like access road, because of the different surface levels, and that has an impact on the speed of the means of transportation. And the surface of the road was kind of wavy at the access point. But the issue has been solved. There are some other parts near Safyan and near other settlements where we have the issue with the asphalt cover. But the situation is not critical now. And we hope for our victory in the nearest future, and I believe that all services will be able to solve all the issues as soon as possible. So when you drive the road, you can see the violation of the norms. And the Ukrainian Transportation Safety Service should control the situation, because the heavy trucks, they violate the norms of using the road. The Ukrainian Transformation Safety and Security Company has limited resources, but they tried to control the situation near Dachna and near Centrolit, the area called Dvastolba. So the situation is under control, but some of the operators, they believe that if there is alert, if there is an air outage, the service cannot operate. So they just wait for such cases just to use the road, just to go by the posts and checkposts. So this is like kind of a fraudulent activities. And of course, we have now the huge burden on the Danube ports and the changes in the passenger flows. That's why the service has not introduced the norm that when it's plus 25 degrees, the heavy trucks, more than 20 tons, cannot use the general roads. But due to the curfew, because of the short daylight, it is impossible to control everything, and such activities could generally stop the passenger and cargo flow. Yes, in August there was the grain deal signed, and it was quite hot. Okay, now it's clear. So you've mentioned that the Danube ports now have the second kind of life during the war. So in Reni, we now have the new container terminal, if I'm not mistaken. Uzdunaysk port has been privatized, and perhaps the Belgorod-Dnistrovsky port will be also privatized. So we can expect some private investments, and we hope that there will be the increase of flows. What is your forecast in terms of the increase of these flows? As I've mentioned, there is a 40% decrease already, and we can also see the large investments. And you've mentioned Uzdunaysk port. Yesterday we had an auction, and the last bid was 201 million hryvnias, and before the war, this port was not that active in terms of the transshipment of cargoes. So we can expect 30% more, additionally to 7 million tons of the handling of cargo products. You're now talking about all Danube ports. Yes. Of course, this will depend on the situation by the end of the war or just after our victory. And of course, the passenger flows can be redirected, but we already can observe the increase. And the business knows how it is going to earn money after its investments and how to increase flows. I have one more question about ports. Don't you know about dredging plans for the Danube area? because the depth is not that big there. The Ukrainian seaports authorities are involved in the process. They have the plans. I cannot tell you about the precise numbers because they are better aware of this work because this is their area of responsibility. But if I'm not mistaken, the dredging is already there. So we depended on the Solony Canal. We cannot control the whole canal because there is also the Romanian part there. That's why we now make dredging in other parts and around. We have the mouth of the river, and around 600 vessels have already gone through the mouth, and the dredging will be there. Thank you very much for the briefing, for being with us. In 40 minutes, we will have the next briefing. We will have the Ukrainian volunteer who managed to ensure the supply of chemical heaters from Japan to Ukraine. So stay tuned.
Там идет первая приемная, и что-то